Thank you so much for being on one of my episodes of Culture Fuzz Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shit, like, when did we virtually meet? Has it been like, I feel like it's
I think about a year.
about a year, right? Yeah, okay.
You were on
So
my newsletter when it was pretty new, weren't you?
I was one of the first ones. Yeah, I remember when you like announced you were gonna do it, and I
Okay,
was like,
yeah. So I started my newsletter like about a year ago, so I think
that's
it's around that time.
hey, happy
Yeah,
anniversary.
exactly.
That's big stuff, especially in the virtual world. I remember coming across your stuff like that's around the time I was trying to like what's the word, like detox my timeline and like find more like-minded people, and super glad that we like vibed and connected, and you've helped me so much to understand the Twitter world. Still don't like it, but I understand it now.
What don't you like
So,
about the Twitter world?
you know what? I think it's because I'm so used to being visual with social media, and with Twitter, it's forcing me to be more creative with my words, which is it's different than blogging. Like you have to like grab people's attention like very quickly with like a small amount of words, and I haven't like perfected that yet. So I'm very much still observing and practicing my writing on the blogging side and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe it's internal. I think deep down inside I'm just like this. I feel like I'm making up excuses. So
No, no, it's fine. There's definitely different kinds of people. Like some people are Instagram people, some people are Twitter people, some
yeah,
people are Pinterest people. Like me, I'm not an Instagram person at all. I'm
yeah.
like a person who takes pictures or likes being in pictures or like, is into like the photographs or anything like that. So I'm just like
Okay.
when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, all right, whatever. I might
That makes
post.
me feel better then. Okay, I feel like Instagram is like my world and kind of like my realm, and I can like produce a photo all day. But Twitter, I'm just like, that's all you right now. But yeah, honestly, thank you so much. So the whole concept of these conversations is to bridge the gap to people, places, products, and philosophies. I know it's going to bring quality difference to people's lives, and that is what you do on a daily. You have multiple platforms now. I'm also seeing that I remember you talking about kind of honing in on your own personal brand, and I kind of see that happening too. So why don't you tell my audience more about yourself, what it is that you do, and we can dive into it.
Okay, sure. My name's Shameen Yakubu, though a lot of people may know me as Momo or Momo the Disciple, which was the handle on my Twitter account, though I recently changed it a few months ago to my real name, just because I felt like not being like a semi-anonymous account. And then as far as my background, I'm a business owner, so I have an e-commerce store. I have a few different websites, and I also do freelance writing services as well. So those are a few of the things that I'm into, amongst other things.
Just a few of the things, but you're creating those avenues of multiple revenue and those different channels and stuff like that. So I admire you, and I like totally watch those types of movements because the rule is in order to build wealth, you need to have what is it, like 7 or 8
Yeah,
streams of revenue coming in. And in this day and age, the possibility of creating those revenues is so just like it's so accessible that it's just there's no excuses now. So I'm just like, I want to watch the people that are like actually doing it so I can like
yeah, yeah,
learn.
it's great. And it's funny too because until you like actually get into it, you're like, damn, like how are you gonna do that? Or like it seems like so much more complicated, but it's really, not that complicated. It might not necessarily be easy, but I think it's actually kind of simple. And I would definitely say I learned a surprising amount from Twitter, especially when it comes to writing. Like when I first got on Twitter, I didn't quite understand it. And then I started getting more active on it. And that was around the time I had started my first blog, which was, oh, actually, that wasn't even my first blog. That was like my second or third blog. But um, I started writing on a new blog and really like being serious about publishing it. It's called sellfireandhell.com. And the first thing that I wrote about that really got like a little bit of buzz was cryptocurrency because I had bought some Bitcoin and Ethereum and this was I want to say back in 20. This was like the end of 2016, I think. Um, so at that time, crypto was getting a lot of buzz and stuff
Yeah.
in the news, and I ended up getting like my first like 300 followers on Twitter from like talking about cryptocurrency, and like a bunch of people were giving me a lot of engagement with the article that I had written,
Uh-huh.
which looking back, I feel like it was. I think my writing standards have probably grown because looking back, I look at that article like, wow, like I could have done this better, this better, this better. But just goes to show you, like, if you put yourself out there, people are gonna, people who relate are going to, engage with you. Even
Right,
if
right. Yeah, and I can totally attest to that and relate to that. I've seen that multiple times. Like, you don't even have to be the best of the best. It's just you're providing valuable information to a niche or a group of people that are like seeking that information. So at that time, I remember everyone was just like cryptocurrency madness.
yeah,
And, you were providing that space for them. So they're just like, whatever, like, I'm gonna, but it's awesome to look back and look at that as a reference point, just like, wow, like that's like I've come a long way. Like that's really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's really awesome. So you're saying that you kind of when you first started doing Twitter, you kind of took to it. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how everyone kind of blossoms on their own social media platform, whether it's Instagram, Facebook. What about Twitter did you take to, or like what code did you crack where you're just like, yes, this is what I want to do?
Well, I think it definitely did happen a little bit over time, but I guess because Twitter is so much about like ideas and like making either a strong argument or kind of making a point in a way that people wouldn't have thought to put it themselves, but then like something clicks. Like if you can take something that seems like complex and make it simple, like people are like, oh my God, wow, like I totally understand that. Like I use Twitter to like try to like make certain points or teach certain concepts, and like people resonate strongly with it because when they read it, like it engages something inside of them. Like it clicks for them in a way that it didn't click before, or you can kind of be unique with your writing skills and like use language that might not be combined, or you can like put concepts together that people wouldn't think to put together, and then it's like a light bulb goes off.
And it's just like you're just like you found that world that's kind of like you're a wordsmith, and that's
Yeah.
what kind of led you. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on. Like it's there's a lot of stuff I want to dive into because of you. I'm putting cinnamon in everything. Like I'm like focusing a lot more on like eating cleaner and fresh. And I want to talk about the first platform that kind of got me to know you, Momo the Disciple. I feel like that was kind of like the homie, and then Zen Medicinal came about. So what was Momo the Disciple? How did that evolve into Zen Medicinal? Like, I feel like these are like, little leaping stones that kind of like led to the evolution of where you are now.
Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna have to go farther back than that then, because it goes before that. Like when I first got on Twitter, my handle was like Millennial Deadbeat or something like that.
Okay.
And it was an anonymous account. I had a picture of like the main character from Fight Club.
Oh,
His character.
what's his name? Not Brad Pitt, the other guy.
Yeah, it's Ed Norton.
Ed Norton. Yes.
Exactly. And it was like a little cartoon picture of his character, and like I would just like make comments on certain things, and then I changed it. I changed my handle to Millennial Alchemist after that, um, and I had that for a while, and that was really when I was talking like probably the most about like spirituality and spiritual topics and like a lot of psychology type stuff as well. And then kind of continued that when I changed it to Momo the Disciple, because I had it. I think I changed my name to Momo the Disciple when I already had like 4,000 followers, and that was like way earlier in the year. So by the time you had seen my account, I had already gone through like a couple iterations until I kind of settled
It was
on.
like the third evolution by the time like
Exactly. So I don't know how many people were there from like the beginning of my account, because that goes, that goes a little bit back. But for the most part, my content has been the same. I mainly talk about things that deal with self-improvement, whether, like you said, it's like the health-related stuff with like the fitness, or the smoothies, or the supplements with Zen Medicinal. Definitely talk a lot about like meditation and spirituality, because that's just something that's been helpful in my life. And I think like some inner reflection is good for a lot of people. I used to be really into fitness and like bodybuilding as well. So I don't
Okay.
talk about that much on Twitter, just because I feel like there's like so many like fitness accounts. Like, all right, you guys don't need me to tell you about that.
Right,
Yes,
right.
you'll follow somebody who talks about fitness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually like that's a good point, because everything's so saturated on social media that you want to be as narrow as humanly possible. And like, yeah, no, I completely get that. And I know that I followed you because you were talking about meditation and self-development and investing in yourself and stuff like that. And you drop a lot of gems. Like, you have a I feel, very valuable account. It's not growing for no reason. You're like at like 16,000 followers. I'm like, I don't think he was anywhere near that when I first started following him.
Yeah.
But I see people like heavily interact, but it's like genuine interaction, and it's not off of like the self-development fluff that's kind of like going around. Like, everyone knows to go to your account if they want some like authentic like insight and advice. And I'm gonna go ahead and put myself out on a ledge here, and I feel out on a ledge here and feel that you're damn near an authority in this entire like niche, self-development niche. Like, you're one of the people that people think about when they think about self-development and like herbs and stuff like that. So that being said, what led you to a lifestyle of meditation and self-development and taking care of yourself, and especially coming, and I don't know your background, but being a Black male in America, I understand the stigmas, the stereotypes, the old school upbringings and stereotypes. So I understand the internal battle with what's expected of you and what is actually good for you. So what was that story like?
I mean, as far as me getting into self-development, I would say I really well, here's the thing. I've always been into probably like some aspects of self-development. It's just like as I got older, they came together more. So for example, I played soccer since I was young, since I was like 5 years old, and I played all the way till I graduated high school. And I've always been like into working out and stuff like that. I've always had an interest in like martial arts. Like, when I was 5 or 6 or whatever, like I took like a karate class, and I love like seeing martial artists and stuff like that. And even with like the psychological stuff, like the meditation and the lucid dreaming and the kind of like weirder stuff like that, even the psychedelics, I was always into that when I was younger, like in high school. I would read about meditation. I would read about like the effects of psychedelic drugs on the mind. I would read about lucid dreaming, and I would practice them, though, back then wasn't that good at it, but I was already interested in it at that young age. Always been interested in like languages. And then, kind of as I got older and got more serious about working out, and also being in the military, because I enlisted in the National Guard when I was like 19. So in that kind of like structured environment where it's like discipline, all of that came together. And I think it really made me like more serious about, self-improvement. Though I would probably say the staple of it is like fitness and like weight training.
Okay. Do you like fitness and weight training? I feel probably requires like an immense amount of mental, not just physical discipline, but mental discipline. So,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't have that, myself included. And I find it fascinating when people talk about, I've been into this since I was so young, and I'm just like, dude, I wasn't even like, I was worried about, getting a piece of chocolate off the counter when I was younger, like wasn't thinking about that. So I always wonder like what type of influences, or who in your family, or, like, who was an influence around you to make you even like hip to game?
Well, the funny thing is, I feel like when I was younger, I wasn't as much consciously aware of, self-improvement. I definitely wasn't as deliberate about it. Like, I worked out just because I was so used to it. And it
Okay.
was just like a thing that I was used to from being in sports my entire life.
Right.
And it's just something that stayed with me since that age. I wasn't necessarily like consciously thinking about it. And then, with some of like the mental stuff, I'm not sure if my interest back then was necessarily self-improvement motivated. It was more like curiosity and like experimentation and like wanting to know what it was about. I'm not sure if it was necessarily like such deliberate, like I have to be better, I have to improve.
Right. Yeah. I don't even think as a kid, like, we digest it like that, but I'm thinking like, I don't know what influences you had growing up, like grandmother, mother, father, brother, where, you saw them reading books or saw them living that way. And you're just like, yeah, like that's like, that totally makes sense, because, a lot of people don't have that. And I'm always just like, man, they started so early and they had, this influence and awareness and stuff like that. And it's just really awesome to see that all of that come together. And I was an athlete for like 15 years, so I can understand having that mindset and how it's easy to just like correlate it into everyday life. Like, I tell my dad all the time, I'm like, I'm so fucking happy you put me in sports, because the mental discipline and communication skills and problem solving skills, like it helped me so much that I didn't even realize that I'm taking into real life. And I think everybody should do team activity growing up, or team sports or something, because it really helps develop and like shape people. So I can definitely see that. Is soccer all that you played?
Yeah, actually, that was all I played. I did also do a little bit of track and field when I was in middle school as well.
Okay.
But no, all I did was soccer. Like, my family's Nigerian and super into soccer, and my sister's also really good at soccer. Like, she's 5 years older than me, and we both started playing when we were 5.
Everybody got fancy footwork. Okay.
I honestly, I wasn't that good at soccer when I first started. Like, when I was younger, I wasn't that good. I mean, I was good in some ways. I feel like I wasn't naturally talented. Like, I had to practice so hard to be like as good as everyone else. But my sister had like natural talent. Like, she was just fucking good with everything. And
my sister's like that too. I'm like, you know what? So walk twice as far and 10 times as fast. No,
yeah,
but
even in high school, my parents paid for me to get like a personal trainer. Like, I would practice with him several hours a week outside of my regular practices, just so I could like work on my skills and stuff like that.
Yeah. So hey, it's not about the journey. It's just some people just need a little bit more finessing and TLC. It's just, we're not all born with the gift. But playing all the way up until high school, like I'm sure, you got somewhat better, right?
Yes, I did. I did end up getting, pretty good when I got older. I did win MVP a couple years on my high school teams and was captain of the team a couple years in a row. So I did.
No big deal. What position did you play?
I actually played every position except center midfielder or goalkeeper. So I would play forward, I would play on the wings in the midfield, I would play defense, left or right side, and sweeper or stopper.
That is a lot of running. Yeah, I played soccer for a little bit too, and yeah, no. Not my thing. So that leads me over into, I hope I'm saying this right, Ashwaganda.
Yes, you are saying it right. Good job.
I am saying it right. Yeah, I sounded it out and everything. I was like, pretty sure this is how you pronounce it. Okay. So ashwagandha, through your medicinal platform, Zen Medicinal, is a Chinese herb. Am I right?
Actually, it's Indian.
It's an Indian herb.
Well, it's Indian in origin as far as like its earliest uses, but there's different variations of it around the world. There's even like some of variations of the herbs in America as well, but ashwagandha is Indian in origin as far as its uses, but they use it in Chinese medicine as well.
Okay. What exactly is ashwagandha, and why are you so drawn to ashwagandha?
So ashwagandha is basically an adaptogenic herb. So it helps the body to um, adapt to stress and
Mm.
have like balance in the body as far as your hormones. So I heard about it. Uh, I think I want to say it's about 18 months to 18 months ago. And when I found out about it, I saw it had like all these benefits. Like it has mental benefits as far as like dealing with anxiety, stress, depression, like helps with improving your mood, helps with your energy levels. And I was like, no way. And like the way people kept talking about it online, they were like, oh my God, like this actually works. Like it's one of the few supplements that works. Because there's so many random supplements out there.
Yep.
And there's only a few that I come across where people are like, no, yeah, this definitely works. So I bought it and I was like, I gotta try this. And I started taking it and it worked. And I felt the difference. Like I think even like a couple of days after I started taking it, I noticed like when I woke up in the morning, I was like awake, like super alert, and like I felt like energized and well rested. And I felt like I hadn't felt that in so long. Like I would always wake up like groggy, or even if I got out of bed, like I wouldn't want to, but like I felt well rested. And I was like, oh my God, this works. And like I felt improvements in my mood. I could feel like more relaxed and stuff. Like I could tell why they said it was like anti-anxiety. And I just felt better overall. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I definitely have to fuck with this. Like I'm gonna definitely keep taking this.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing holistic alternative to Xanax or whatever they're prescribing nowadays to help people calm down.
Hmm.
Um, and have you given it to people who've given you positive feedback, or people that have tried it and they're just
Oh yeah.
like, yo, yeah?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I I mean, I talked to a bunch of people even on Twitter because there's so many people who are into like holistic health and like supplements and stuff like that. So I started talking to people on Twitter about it, and they're like, "Yeah, I've been taking it. It's awesome." And if you go on like Reddit.com or a bunch of other websites, people talk about it. It's really popular on Amazon, which is where I first bought mine from.
Hmm.
And then I just started, after I started taking it and it worked, I started doing more research because I was just curious, like what it was. And then I kind of found out like how long it's been around and like, all the different benefits it has. And even with the people that buy it from Zen Medicinal, I have a bunch of people who've left reviews on the website that it works for them. I have my roommate on it. He's taking it now, bought his second or third bottle.
Oh,
Same
wow.
friend.
Bottle up at three, huh?
Exactly. And it's funny too because I've been seeing like repeat customers on my website. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, definitely, obviously must work for them if they keep buying it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I'm always open to finding holistic alternative remedies. I'm a huge holistic believer. If I don't have to take medicine, I don't want to take medicine. So if there's alternative ways to deal with stuff, but it's also, like you said, I'm just like, I just don't know how true everything is because it's the internet. So what advice do you give to people to help and try to decipher like the bullshit from the authentic stuff that's out there?
Definitely try to look at studies. One of the reasons I was so confident in starting Zen Medicinal and selling it and supporting it and promoting it so much is because it works. And, I believe it works. Other people believe it works. And it's been proven in like so many different like scientific studies to work. And even
Okay.
going back to the fact that it's like such an important herb in ancient Ayurvedic medicine from India, as well as Chinese medicine, which both go back thousands and thousands of years. Like they literally like wrote down like how it worked and wrote things down about it and recorded it. because it was so important for them.
Wow.
So that and the fact that there's modern scientific study to show its benefits just makes me like really confident in promoting it.
Okay, I can get hip with that. I'm all about receipts. I'm like really, really huge on receipts. I think that's why I went super heavy into, like studying the universe and understanding we're all one. Because I was like, oh, there's receipts now. Like, okay, for sure, science is backing it up. So, yeah, no, that I'm totally with it. I'm gonna have to check it out. Like I said, I'm not a skeptic,
check
but
people's user reviews too, or like, if you go online on like, if you just go on Google and like type in information about a supplement and like reviews, you can read the reviews from like a site like Amazon or Reddit or whatever it is, and people will talk about like, oh, this is what I felt. Though there's definitely some people who don't always feel the effects from almost any type of supplement or drug. For the most part, uh, you know, if like an overwhelming amount of people are talking about the benefits, then I would say go ahead. That's kind of how I do it. And also, like, I'll just, if I'm really curious or really want to try something, I'll just buy it. Like if it's just like, one little bottle of supplements is maybe like, 15 to 25 bucks. And I'm really interested, I'll just buy it and try it out. And then, if it works, I'll stay with it. Like that's how I ended up trying the ashwagandha.
yeah, and it's about finding what works best for you too. Like
Yeah,
it may not be ashwagandha, but maybe it'll be like the gateway herb that'll like, have you find something else. So no, that's super awesome. Are there any other herbs that you're dabbling in or that you're kind of interested in, or is it just like
Yeah, I definitely tried different herbs. So the herb, well, that one's not necessarily an herb, but it's a supplement that I first started really experimenting with. Is called L-theanine. And it's actually the active chemical in it is like the active chemical in green tea.
Oh yes, that's that good shit. I love green tea and the benefits that it has. Matcha powder. I'm like huge, huge, huge on matcha powder. Yeah.
I take that as well, and I've been experimenting with that as well. And then, but L-theanine, I think, is probably what got me more into like believing in supplements, because when I first started researching it, I was researching different nootropics. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with those.
Nope. Speak to me like I'm a baby in this world, because I am.
Okay, so nootropics are basically what are known as like brain drugs or smart drugs. Basically, they're drugs that improve how you think. They improve cognitive function. They improve memory. They're supposed to basically, it's like it's basically the concept of what the movie Limitless was based on.
Okay.
So you know how he takes that pill and it makes him like super smart. I mean,
super smart, yeah.
Obviously they exaggerated like what it is for the movie, but
right.
that's really where the concept comes from. And I was researching a bunch of those like kind of nootropics because I was in like the self-improvement space, so I read all those blogs and stuff like that. And I think one of the ones they talked about was modafinil, which I guess is like very popular on like Wall Street and in Silicon Valley. And there's all sorts of these drugs that are considered smart drugs that people take.
And they're actual drugs, not like holistic supplements.
These are actual like drugs.
Okay.
I think they're even like some of them, a lot of them, I believe, are in a gray area legally, to where I'm not even sure if it's totally legal to buy them. I think it's kind of like you're not really allowed to, but you're not really stopped from doing it. Like
it's like frowned upon.
Yeah, I think like modafinil and things like that, I think they're supposed to be prescribed. So I think people either just order them illegally or they just fudge the prescription and get them. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But I want to say some of them aren't even fully legal.
Hey, trying to get that limitless hit.
Yeah, exactly. People, it's the same thing with like the with like the Adderall and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like
people take it for like studying or working on projects or whatever, even though maybe they probably just bought it off somebody or they lied to get the prescription or whatever it was,
Yep. And it's that pressure of, everything's so competitive now and everyone's trying to be more laser focused. But I feel like with any supplement, any prescription, it's not supposed to be the end all be all. It's supposed to be supplemental. It's supposed to be
Exactly.
in addition to you doing the actual work to better yourself. So with ashwagandha, with the main ingredient in green tea, say it one more time for me.
Oh, L-theanine.
L-theanine are supposed to be used in conjunction of something else like meditation, or what else are you supposed to be doing while taking these supplements?
Well, I mean, first off, I'll just kind of say, like, I do agree supplements are supposed to be supplemental to what you're already doing.
Right.
It's not supposed to just be a fix-it pill for whatever you're feeling like. Even with Zen Medicinal, like on our site, we talk a lot about just being healthy overall. We have a meditation guide that we sell and promote,
right.
you know, having mindfulness practices and overall health practices to maintain, like exercise, getting enough sunlight, going on a walk, eating healthy, things like that, because, you know, it's important to not just look at the pill to
Right.
solve all the problems for you.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people, myself included, it took me a while to like do this part, because it's the hardest part, is changing the mentality and philosophy of your overall living, and not look at this stuff as a quick fix. And it's just like, yep, I'm gonna pop it, it's gonna fix all of my problems. I feel it's just like a fluffy pillow to kind of like aid you through that stuff, but at the end of the day, if you're not doing the internal work, it's not going to make a difference, I feel. And something like ashwagandha, do you feel that it's a possibility that it may not work for people?
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
You know, somebody might take it and not say they don't feel anything, or, you know, say there's no improvement in anything. Um, that's just yeah,
Yeah. So just like with prescriptions, supplements or herbs, it just may not be hip for everybody.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I
But
can
I
totally
think
feel that.
for most people, they're going to get, you know, some effect from it. And also, I think it also depends on like where you're coming from health wise, to how much you maybe feel it, or how much you think it's affecting you, because a lot of times things are imperceptible. Like, you might not really be aware of the effect it's having on you, even though it is. You might just not be just aware of it. And especially with a lot of these supplements and drugs as well, that are kind of like for the mind more than the body, it can be kind of a tricky thing to track that. You know,
That's interesting. Can you elaborate on that? That's really interesting. You may not be aware the effects it might be having. Like, what's an example of that? Or like.
yeah. So I mean, even for an example of that, you know, say for example, you're taking something and you're taking it for depression or anxiety, you know, how exactly do you necessarily gauge the kind of effect, or how exactly do you measure it? Because a feeling can be so subjective, especially when it's like something mental. It can be hard to measure or be aware of. Um, Another thing with that is, you know, I'm not sure if we can talk about this with psychedelics on here, but
It's open. This
uh,
is the no. You can talk about
um,
anything on here. Yes.
like microdosing is an example of that. So I've done microdosing with psilocybin mushroom,
But
and
there's scientific studies on microdosing as well. There's a Netflix special. I forget the name of it. I think it's like How Our Brain Works or something like that. There's a full episode talking about LSD and microdosing, and how there's some studies of how it cured people from depression. It just completely like zened them out. You know, of course you have like your bad trips, but for the most part, it was like a really good results, really positive results, which is like super interesting. I'm like, I've
yeah,
always been open to psychedelics and stuff like that, because it activates a part of the mind that we would not initially be able to access on just a regular conscious level, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, with the microdosing specifically, when you take the microdose, you're taking amounts that are imperceptible to the human conscious. So even though, like you said, it's been studied and it has effects on you, your actual mind or body can't feel it if you're doing it right. I mean, there was definitely times that I microdosed and I felt a little bit different, but there were also times where I didn't feel different at all. And actually, they say when you're microdosing, you're not supposed to actually feel any different with the amount that you're taking. It's supposed to be working on a subconscious level.
Oh, okay. So the people who, I guess, the tripping that you see emulated in movies and like television and stuff like that, that's not necessarily what microdosing is supposed to be like, with like the psychedelic colors and like.
Well, no, that's not what it is with microdosing. The regular dose, then yeah, you're going to be seeing stuff.
Got it.
Yeah, because the microdosing is a certain way that you take it because it's like you're taking like a very tiny amount each day, and that's way different than taking like a full-on dose. So even though you're putting the psychedelic drugs in your body, the amount you take is very small, and you're not actually getting a high or a trip, but you're subtly kind of affecting the mind as you do it.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like working in the background.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. So microdosing is something that you've done, and what were the subtle changes that you began to see, or how did it have its effects on you?
Well, that's the funny part is as I was taking it, I was like, I don't really feel this. It was kind of like they said, like I didn't really consciously feel different. So every 3 days, because there's like certain protocol that you take it certain amount every few days. So every like 3 days or whatever, I would measure out a very small amount on the scale, and then I would eat it. And there was a couple times where I think I ate a little too much, and I felt I wasn't like tripping or anything, but like I felt a little bit off. But then there's other times I literally felt nothing. And then there was a couple other times I took it to where I got into like a flow state to where, a lot of people take it to like be more creative or like
Yeah.
more motivated or energized. That day I definitely felt it, but it was like in the gym, like like I was just in the zone during the gym workout. And I haven't been lifting as heavy as I used to in the past. And then like I got in the gym and I was just like, oh, what the hell? Like I felt like so connected with my body and like so in control. And I was like, this is amazing. Like it was definitely a level of flow state at that point.
That's amazing. That's like the ultimate goal, is finding that state of flow, just being in like whatever you do and finding that state of flow. So I miss that feeling of working out, like being an athlete, of just being in that flow. It's so hard to get there now. I'm just like, but yeah, that's a lot of information. I'm definitely going to have to check it out. And are you like a clean eater? Do you eat completely clean, or do you eat meats, or what's your diet like to complement the supplements?
I would say I eat pretty clean. I don't really eat out that much. I don't eat fast food almost at all. I don't drink soda and I don't drink juice either. I pretty much only drink water, tea, coffee, and alcohol.
So I know juice does some pretty bad stuff to us. I forget exactly what it is, but
it's got
what
a lot
exactly
of sugar
does the
problem. It's got a lot of sugar. Juice has too much sugar in it. Like modern juice from like the grocery store, like it's that's the issue with most drinks that you get from the store is they're just packed full of sugar. Like all those juices that they say like are fruit juice are just they're just as bad as soda. Even like stuff like Gatorade isn't good for you. Just all packed with sugar.
Yeah, I have a Gatorade, like sitting over there. I was like, Gatorade's not bad. Damn it, Gatorade's okay, got it. But no, honestly, like I said, what your account has been one of the accounts that's super motivated to living a cleaner lifestyle, not just, health wise, but mentally, because my relationship with food was very toxic, really unhealthy, emotional eater. Still kind of am. Like, I fucking love food. Like, I love food, but I understand that I had to create a boundary with food. Like, I'm not going to give up what I love to eat. Like I'm all about, you know, indulging in joy from here, from, you know, from time to time. But ultimately, cancer runs in my family, diabetes runs in my family, you know, like history of family members just not taking care of themselves and watching them kind of deteriorate, where I was just like, okay, no, I need to like take control of my life now because I want to be able to function when I'm older. I don't want to be like that. So, very interestingly, I took up fasting, intermittent fasting, because I knew that it was going to challenge me, not just physically, but like on all levels, like emotionally, and it was going to help me understand and ask questions about my relationship with food. Probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself was intermittent fasting, because as I was giving up other foods, I was forcing myself to eat more fruits and more vegetables and drink more water and like more proteins. So much so to the point now I've been intermittent fasting, I think for like 9 months, 9, 10 months. This is all by choice now. Like I'd done it for 3 months initially in the beginning, and then after that I was like, I don't want to keep doing it. Like I like where my body's at, I like where I'm at mentally. And I think my body got so used to the shift, like it completely just like my diet, all of that completely shifted, that one thing to know about me, I fucking love pastries. Like I love pastries. Give me a donut, waffle, like pan dulce, I don't care what it is. If it's sweet, there's sugar on it, I'm tearing it up. But I had been indulging my sweet tooth with fruit. Like I've learned how to pick fruit. I learned how to smell the fruit when it's ready to eat. Like it's going to be sweeter when it feels like this, or when, my bad. It's going to be sweeter when it smells like this, or when it feels like this. And like I will fuck a mango up. Like, oh my goodness. So, but it's to the point now where if I see fruit, if I have a choice between fruit and a pastry, like I will go for the fruit, like without even thinking about it. And in my 31 years of living, never, ever, ever, ever thought I would develop that type of mindset. So coming from me firsthand, how fasting can be like pretty damn powerful. Have you ever fasted? What type of fasting have you done?
Yeah, I've done fasting before. I've done intermittent fasting several times. Like I said, when started getting really serious about like weight training and bodybuilding when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so at one point I did intermittent fasting just to like try to get like cut up and like ripped as possible. And it worked really well. And then I've also done fasting, like religious fasting. Like I've fasted for Ramadan a bunch of times. So I've done it on that side as well. I think fasting has a lot of different benefits. I'll still do some sort of fasting every once in a while. Sometimes I do it without even realizing it, because it's like sometimes like I just don't feel like eating, or you know I'm one of those person. I'm one of those people who can eat like one or two big meals and then I'm good.
Oh my God. See, I could not fathom that. Like that's the household that I was brought up in. Like it's just food. Like I'm half black and half Mexican. Like we ate. Like if you were sad, you ate. You were happy, you ate. Someone died, you ate. It was Sunday, you ate. Like you just ate. So, and it's funny because like I would talk to my cousins. I was like, you know, culturally speaking, we were raised to have like eating disorders because I don't know how to turn this off. And my relationship with food is very questionable. So I, you know, totally give it up to fasting, because now it's to the point where I'm like, if I'm not hungry, I'm not hungry. Before it'd be like, oh, it's breakfast, I have to eat breakfast, or it's lunchtime, I have to eat lunchtime. And we're trained to have these concepts about food, like we have to eat 3 hearty meals a day. And it's like, honestly, no, like you just need enough to fuel yourself and like not feel fatigued, and make sure you're eating the right proteins and the right vegetables. And all of this shit is from your Twitter account and like stuff that I'm learning from your blog and stuff like that. And it really has made a difference. I feel so much more energy. And like, I feel like my focus is sharper. I feel like my taste bud, like my palate has changed. Like I taste food differently. Like fruit. Oh my God. I had like the sweetest mango today that I'm just like, you would have been offended watching me eat this mango. I was like making love to the thing. I was like, this is so like, how do people not like, this is better than candy to me right now. This is so damn good. And then y'all with the cinnamon, okay, you and the damn cinnamon. Like, is there like a health benefit besides it tasting so good on like damn near everything? Like, is there a health benefit to cinnamon?
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of random like different health benefits to cinnamon. I honestly I can't name them off the top of my head. I want to say one of them is it helps with inflammation, and it has like some other random has a bunch of random benefits. Like most spices and herbs actually have like a lot of health benefits. Like just like spices and herbs that you can find in the kitchen actually have a lot of benefits. We just aren't really like consciously aware of them, or we don't really, or we probably kind of take them for granted a little bit. But
No,
yeah.
it's like as long as it adds the flavor, that's all that matters. But no, it's like that's real. We don't ask questions. Like I know garlic has a shit ton of benefits for you, and onion has a bunch of benefits. And I put garlic in everything. I love garlic, but the cinnamon, when you're like, yeah, put it in your smoothie, or like try it on your fruit, or like put it on. I was just like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, it's so good on everything. Like, never would have thought it. So, like, y'all put cinnamon on stuff. You will not be disappointed. And it's like, that's all you need. Like, right before I came on here, I just had a bowl of, like, granola, banana, and almond milk and cinnamon. Best shit ever. I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. And my boyfriend's like, you're eating cinnamon-flavored earth. Like, does
right.
not look good to me. And I'm like, it's so good. Like, what are you talking about? So yummy. So yeah, it's fasting has definitely changed the game for me. And in terms of like my palate and my relationship with food, I'm just like, I'm at such a good place with it. And I huge thank you to the information that you provide and that gap that you bridge to that information, especially to like our peers, and making it relatable and approachable, and everyone could just talk about it. And it's a really, really awesome platform that you have, and that is also ever evolving. So not only do you talk about medicinal stuff and, mindfulness stuff, but I love your personal brand, little bio. Sophisticated ignorance focused on money, marketing, and mindfulness.
Yeah.
I'm stuck on the sophisticated ignorance. Please, can you elaborate on that a little more?
Actually, like it's a Kanye West line. It's like sophisticated ignorance, write my curses in cursive.
Okay, yes.
That kind of also just goes to the fact that like a lot of times on Twitter, I'm considered like controversial, or people will say like, oh, he's crazy, or he's a jerk, or he's this, or, people will get sometimes upset at the things I say. So it's kind of like playing on that as well, like, sophisticated ignorance.
Got it. I think people get mad at the truth. I think you speak a lot of truth, and the truth can be very, very harsh to people who are not ready to hear it. So that's why I'm all like, I love the truth. But marketing, you've really got a niche here with marketing, and you have a brand new platform when did this just start? The Writing on Offense, when did you start that?
I started that like 3 months ago.
3 months ago. And this is more on your freelance writing and content marketing and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit more about, Writing on Offense, and what type of service that provides and what influenced you to create this platform.
Okay, sure. I'll definitely talk about that. So, like I said, I recently started that, and I recently decided to get into freelancing. And, I have a background in marketing, and I got into it because as far as like the writing, I got laid off from my job like 3 months ago from my corporate 9-to-5 job in June. So I was thinking about like if I want to get another job. And for the last like 2 or 3 years, I've been thinking about getting more into like writing services, copywriting, blog writing, and stuff like that, especially since I've had, multiple websites and stuff like that. And a lot of people that I interact with on Twitter and that I work with that are into e-commerce are involved with like copywriting and things like that. So I've been researching it for a long time. I took like getting fired, or, getting laid off, if you want to call it that, took that as kind of like a sign, like, all right, I think it's time to just like go all in. Like if it's something I've been thinking about for so long, to where I can kind of, be self-employed and be location independent. Like now's the time. So
Yeah.
I started that about 3 months ago, and I've been writing articles for different people and building out my portfolio, studying more copywriting, more content marketing, SEO, search engine optimization, and all these different things that go into marketing and things like that. Though I kind of felt confident just because I've been writing just like on my own sites for so long. And I do have a background in marketing. So my career was business development for software companies.
Mm.
Would do prospecting, cold calling, email marketing and email outreach, research, sales research, and worked in the marketing department of a couple different software companies. So that's
So
kind of
it just made sense to just branch out on your own. You already
it's
had all of the experience. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. And 3 months it's been since you've had her. See, I'm almost done writing a blog article about this. It's I think like the 5 top lies we've been told growing up, and one of them is staying at a mediocre job. And whether we like it or not, the theory, the concept of 9 to 5 is dying out. Like it's literally on its way out, and people need to start having the real conversation of we need to start getting creative and figuring out how to make money on our own. And it's almost inexcusable because at this day and age, everybody has a skill. If you don't have a skill, you can jump on YouTube, you can jump on the internet and develop a skill. But finding ways to create your own um, avenue of money is like it's the next step. I feel like it's
yeah,
very much the next step.
it's kind of like a logical progression. I mean, I kind of started dabbling in it more when I got on Twitter, and I was into the cryptocurrency and stuff. So I was like, wow, that's cool. Like I definitely made some money with the cryptocurrency, not like a lot, but I made some, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like,
Right?
I mean,
That
my
$10 hit different when you make it on your own. Like
exactly, right? It's like, they make that joke like once people make a little bit of money outside their job, even if it's $5, they're like, man, I can't do this 9 to 5 shit.
exactly.
Come
That's how I was. I was like, I just paid a bill with it. Oh, you can't tell me shit, but I will be there on Monday. I will.
on.
No, yeah, that's what's up. So I think it's very important to at least conceptualize that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think even if it's not necessarily like a thing that you do, like, for your main, business or your main source of income, I think it's good to at least like dabble in it or at least like maybe experiment in it, especially like as an adult, like, like you said, in today's society, this day and age, like you never know, like for example, at my company, we got acquired. And so they did like pretty much a mass layoff. They laid off a bunch of people across different departments. So it's like you might think that you're more secure in a job, but that's not necessarily security because they can fire you at any time. And when you have, like you said, a skill, you can kind of do your own thing, And these days with the internet, there's no excuse for, not having something that you can work towards, even if you're not perfect right now. Like you said, there's so many resources available. There's free resources, there's paid resources. Like there's no excuse not to, get into something.
Right, right. And it's self-development, I feel, is like inevitable at this point. Like it's we have to it feels like, and you know what it is, it's like a paradigm shift that's kind of happening here. Like people are lifting the veil to so many things about self-healing, self-development. Mental health is like a huge conversation now, when before it was like feelings. I don't want to, again, I grew up in a Black and Mexican household. We didn't talk about feelings. We were told to go
Yeah.
take a nap, or like it was all in our head. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah, I didn't talk about feelings or anything like that growing up. That was definitely a big thing for me personally to overcome, is like being more in touch with my emotions and tapping into that and being more aware and conscious of my feelings and like how maybe some of the things I'm feeling might be affecting my behavior. That was like a big thing.
Are you able to talk about some of those things, some of those feelings? I only asked because, especially you being an African American man, grew up playing sports, the alpha male. I feel that men, especially now, need to hear these conversations and need to hear more vulnerability from their male counterparts. So, if you're open to it, can you talk a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, growing up, like my family was not like, oh, we're talking about our feelings or like we're talking about our emotions. It was not like that kind of like open communication or like even like being aware of that. Like, like any boy growing up, like my dad would be like, oh, why are you crying? Like, don't cry, you're a boy. What are you doing? And, having that pressure on you to come off like a certain way, I think definitely can get to a lot of people. I think for me, I had to like realize like if I was at a certain point where like, you know, maybe I should admit like I don't feel good or like I need help. That was a big thing for me to like admit like, wow, like I actually need help. It's humbling. And it's a hard thing to be able to open up to do, especially if you weren't kind of raised to be that open or, communicate like that or be aware of yourself like that. And that was a big thing, like, especially like as a man, like sometimes you have to even admit to, someone that like, wow, like I'm not okay. Like it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Yeah.
That's just life.
Yeah. Sometimes the strongest thing that you can absolutely do is ask for help. And it's unfortunate that we're raised in a society that um, idolizes being by yourself, competing with other people. And by nature, we're a tribal people. Like we thrive in tribes, that saying of it takes a village. I was just like, I don't know what the fuck that means, like whatever. But like as I got older and I began my self-development journey, I was like, oh, like we're the only culture that does not, take heed to the fact of as soon as you grow up and you get out the house, you have to move, like your mom and dad have to live on their own, you have to live on your own. Everybody else is living with their grandmas and their aunties and their uncles and, helping raise the kids and taking care of each other. And I'm like, that's tribe. You know what I'm saying? Like they have the emotional support. They have just that support. And unfortunately, where we live, that's like frowned upon. Like, oh, you still live with your parents? Like,
Well, I mean, that's another thing I kind of talk about on my account is just Western society and American culture. And like, we have so many like weird, like unnatural aspects of our culture that I think go directly against human nature. And, one of those things is definitely a sense of community. And that's like one of those things that I think really hurts American culture is like it's so like closed off, it's so competitive, it's so like individualistic, it's so like, oh, I did this, or comparing accomplishments. There's a rat race. If you go on social media, it's everyone trying to one up who has the best life or show off their highlight reel of what they've done. So it's all over radio and television as well. It's like this hyper focused energy on who's the best. I think I even just tweeted a quote a few days ago from General Patton. He said, "America loves a winner. America does not tolerate losers." And it's like a ladder because if you're here, that means somebody has to be beneath you, and or if somebody's doing better than you, then that means you're a loser. So there's so many like different dynamics to it. And I think in general, Western society has kind of like gotten us more disconnected. Like most people, I feel probably don't really know their neighbors, and family units aren't always as close. It's very disconnected and cut off, and it's not natural.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why, I'm drawn to what it is that you do, because you do provide that sense of community. This is why I do what I do with Culture Fuzz, because I was like, we need to talk to each other and we need to have these conversations because it's so fucking isolated and it's weird. I just had an interview with one of my friends who has a nonprofit, and she holds a lot of like dating panels, and the idea was inspired to her because an African American woman wasn't able to take a compliment from another African American woman. And to me, like, that's so sad. I'm like, we can't even give compliments to each other without it being like, what's the hidden agenda, you know? And it's like, that's so damn sad. Like, we are so broken and so disconnected that's the mentality that we have.
Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of it is just by design, like just the way society is set up, that I think it's easier to kind of control people if it's like, you know, us against them, divide and conquer.
Yep.
I back even like when the FBI was like investigating like different activists, civil rights activists, and even like different like music artists, like one of their main concerns, like when FBI had a file on Tupac, and I think like one of their main concerns wasn't like anything with violence. They were concerned because they were saying like he might have a chance of like uniting Black and Hispanic people in LA more. And I think it was the same thing with the Panthers, because when they were around, they had a very close relationship with one of the Hispanic activist groups. I want to say it was like the Brown Berets or something like that, though I could be wrong on that. But that was another one of their concerns, was like they were seeing different groups were linking up and actually like uniting with each other. So they had to go there and stop it and make sure it's like, you guys are supposed to be against each other, not coming together.
And it's like, I don't want people to like roll their eyes and be like, oh shit, here we go with the conspiracy. And it's like, it's not a conspiracy when there's fucking receipts, you know? Like, it's literally like, it's documented.
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover, go read about him when he ran the FBI, and it showed like he was very racist, and he would like deliberately try to take out these different civil rights groups purely based on that, not because they were actually violent. Look at today. I think today was the day that the federal government announced that they were finally calling like the white nationalists like a terrorist group.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh my God, that's huge.
Yeah, they're calling that now like a form of terrorism. But if you look at historically, the country never once went after the KKK. They were always allowed to do whatever they wanted, and they still are. Meanwhile, you had groups like the Black Panthers who were, actually providing community services and weren't harming anybody, and they were getting labeled as, terrorists. So there's definitely like a false narrative. There's definitely, dishonest aspects of like the government and different treatments towards race.
And that's why understanding, history, looking past what media is like feeding people, and, just using the internet and using media in a way to become informed, because there's a lot of truth accounts, there's a lot of awareness accounts who, give us a window into accurate history, or give us a window into information that, isn't really on the surface. And me just now learning, excuse my ignorance, that I believe, was it the first Romans were like actually like Black, or like the first Greeks or something like that were like actually Black people?
Well, I'm not necessarily sure about that statement to say they were Black, but they definitely like traded and dealt with Africans. Like, the Greeks and Romans were trading with Africa and stuff like that. They went to Egypt. So, yeah, they knew who Black people were for sure.
Yeah. So there's just so much that
been going on there.
Yeah. And I know, like, in order to heal as a people, it starts with understanding where we come from and what our history is and stuff like that. And it's out there and it's accessible. We just, unfortunately have to dig for it more than most people. But knowing the truth about ourselves is what's going to help us heal. And we are very, very strong, resilient, powerful people. And I do see, honestly, the conversation turning. I do see people asking different questions, and I feel like a veil is being lifted. And people, are sick of being hurt. They're sick of being, broke all the time and trying to get out of this poverty cycle. And, same here, trying to bring financial awareness to the community, trying to, what you're doing, bringing self-awareness and healing and, uncomfortable truths to people. And I feel that, people like you and the work that you're doing is so fucking important. And it might be, to others, it's like, oh, it's a small platform. He's not doing much. It's like, yo, man, he's planting seeds and you have no idea how powerful that shit is. So I want to thank you so freaking much for the work that it is that you do, for your newsletters that everyone can sign up for the well-roundedness that you provide, all the way from your self-development to, Ashwaganda, now developing into your personal brand, to your copywriting. I feel like all of it is like coinciding into one big, massive movement, and who knows what else you're going to be building in that amazing brain of yours. But it's, this is what Culture Fuzz is about. And I wanted to bring you on here to highlight what it is that you're doing for the community, and having those conversations that make a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's important work and it's absolutely necessary, especially in such a superficial, saturated world that we live in. So dude, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate all that. Sometimes for me, it's like surreal sometimes, like, having an impact on people and, being able to reach so many people, because, sometimes I'm like, just going about my day, or like I'm on social media or I tweet stuff, and then it doesn't really hit me till somebody like messages me or leaves a comment and they're like, wow, like you helped me so much, like I love your content, or like, you helped me, like I've had people message me that, talking about like business and marketing helped them like get the job they wanted, or inspired them to start their own business, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yep. So yeah, you're getting the feedback, and myself included. Like I said, you helped me navigate the Twitter world. I was like, oh my God, what is it? And you provided a lot of insight. You're always dropping gems, and it's a pure reflection of the work that you do on yourself. And I am very, very excited for what your future holds. I'm always looking out for those newsletters. And is there anything that you would like to tell my viewers, or where we can find you, websites, all of that? It's all going to be in the description box below, guys. But yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So most of my social media, you can find me at Shameen Yakubu, which is SHAMEEN, last name YAKUBU. And then you can find my supplement store at Zen Medicinal on, my actual website or any social media.
Dope. Super awesome. Me personally, guys, I highly recommend going on his Twitter. I love his Twitter. It's just like little shots of like just gold nuggets. The newsletter, I love your newsletter. Please keep those coming. It's whether it's talking about marketing or self-development or ashwagandha. You provide very valuable information, and that stuff is hard to weed through online nowadays. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like all for it. I'm gonna try the ashwagandha out, and I'm gonna do a video review on it and give like my 2 cents on how I feel about it. So I will be ordering Friday when I get paid.
Okay, I think you're gonna like it.
I think so. I'm excited. So far, so good with the cinnamon. I was like, okay, I feel safe. I can trust him. It's like a good recommendation. But yeah, again, thank you so much for being on the show, and hit you up next time.
All right. Thanks for having me. Peace out, Culture Fuzz.
Yeah, dog.